You know when you see a game as a kid, and for whatever reason you can't play it? Even though everything you've seen for that game looks absolutely enthralling, you were just left hoping that one day that you'll get to play it? Well, when you finally do get to play that game, how does it hold up? Was it truly everything you thought it would be? A lot of the time, it isn't. But some of the time it does reach those expectations, and in rare instances, it's even better than you ever thought it could be. Released on July 11th, 1997 in Japan and March 31st, 1998 in North America, SaGa Frontier was that odd title in the middle of the Squaresoft renaissance. Stuck between games like Final Fantasy Tactics and I have no idea how to pronounce that, SaGa Frontier was a game I had known about for years after seeing a trailer for it on a Final Fantasy VII sampler disc which came with Tobal No. 1, a game that, trust me, I will get to at some point. Not only did that disc come with a demo for Final Fantasy VII and some trailers for Bushido Blade, Final Fantasy Tactics, and SaGa Frontier, but it also had an amazing menu theme that went unused in Final Fantasy VII. While the demo for Final Fantasy VII was cool, SaGa Frontier in particular struck a chord with me, especially when comparing it to the normal Final Fantasy experience that was presented in 7. SaGa Frontier was a JRPG that, funny enough, was not like most JRPGs. It had 7 different protagonists, all with their own stories, different areas exclusive to them, as well as exclusive boss fights and music. And that fact alone was enough to pique my interest. However, I would not get the chance to play this game until last year, 2017, where I bought myself a PSP that I was going to hack and play as many games that I could fit on that goddamn thing. Besides some fan-translated Japan-exclusive games, some of which I'm still waiting for, I decided to finally see what SaGa Frontier was all about, and any expectations I had before were utterly blown out of the water. As mentioned before, the game has 7 protagonists. Those 7 are Red, Blue, Ricky, Amelia, Lute, 260G, and Acelius. Red is a normal teenage boy who, after a series of events, becomes a superhero known as Al Kaiser and vows to defeat a crime syndicate known as Black X. Blue is a mage who graduates out of magic school and is tasked with collecting as many different kinds of magic as possible so that he could face his twin brother Rogue in a magical duel. Ricky is the type of monster whose hometown is on the brink of destruction, and so must collect the 9 rings of Margamol, yeah, I guess that's how you say that, in hopes of saving that hometown, and yeah, Ricky's story is probably the most generic out of all the protagonists, but that's okay, because we also have Amelia, a model whose fiancé was murdered by someone known as the Joker. After being wrongfully sent to prison and breaking out, she joins the secret organization Gradius. I am not kidding, this organization is named Gradius, which is also hunting for the Joker. There's Lute, a person who has the shortest campaign of the game where he must deal with the legacy left behind by his dead father. T-260G is an old government robot that awakens in modern times to finish its secret mission to take out the Region Buster 3, which, oh my god, that name. And finally, there's Acelius. Once a normal girl that was tragically ran over by a carriage, was given a blood transfusion by the mystic lord Orlog. She lives her new life as a half-mystic in Orlog's castle, but soon escapes and is out on the run. Now, you may have noticed that these plots are not very normal, and yeah, that's kind of the point. SaGa Frontier has a weird and interesting world. You have normal remote villages, but you also have slums and cities next to cursed ruins. You have humans that can use weapons or their bare fists, but you also have monsters that can transform into other monsters by having a certain combination of moves that you can absorb from the enemy. You have a race of people called the Mystic that are just normal people, but consumed by something like hatred or greed to the point that they become ultra-powerful spirits, and then you got functional robots that can think for themselves. You have schools of magic and different spiritual ways of learning new mystical abilities, but then you also have superheroes that fly around in jet swans. This weird mishmash of all kinds of different things somehow comes all together and ends up being oddly charming. But that's enough talk about the plot and setting. Let's discuss the main aspect of any game, the gameplay. It's a turn-based RPG that, while familiar, fiddles with the normal formula. One of the big differences being that you don't level up a level, you level up a stat. This ends up making every battle actually worth something. Just attacking anything makes you stronger. Taking hits builds up your defense, and so on. Since you don't level up, you don't learn skills just by reading a certain threshold, you gain them by using a specific weapon enough times to raise the mastery for that weapon. As you raise the mastery, a light bulb will periodically appear over your head, and you'll use the new skill instead of a chosen action, free of charge. So, you'd be shooting somebody with a gun normally, but then your character learns how to spread shot instead of just shooting normally. Likewise, a martial artist character would be gearing up for just a normal punch, but then learns how to suplex enemies instead. It was unlike any Jrpg I had played at the time, and most importantly, it was really fun. There are 31 sub-characters in this game, and all of them specialize in something. Whether it's a swordsman, martial artist, a mage proficient in a certain type of magic, or just having a robot that you can customize on your team. You can even recruit some of the protagonists in certain stories, adding to the replay value, with this game already packed with content as it is. Besides the normal side quests and the like, you can end up fighting optional bosses, secret areas, and all you need to do is explore. As much as I'm singing this game's praises though, there are some things I don't like and some things that didn't age well. Being an old Squaresoft title, you can guess that this game's script is not the best. And while you could still get the bare essentials, it still has some awkward stilted dialogue, which causes some moments to lose the effect they were going for. Another thing is the fact that the stories of the different protagonists are connected in an overarching plot, but when you bring everything together, some things feel off or incomplete, and they are. An 8th protagonist was planned to help bring everything together in a neat little bow, but sadly that wasn't the case, and this would-be protagonist was repurposed into a sub-character by the name of Fuse. Getting into my gripes, however, will be less interesting because they're kinda small, all things considered. There's no escape command in battles, so if you get into an encounter, then you have to fight it no matter what, and that could get a little repetitious after going through multiple campaigns. But the real kind of nitpick for me is I don't really like the pre-rendered graphics in some cases. A lot of these areas still look pretty good for the time, but other areas are more muddled and just aren't really appealing to the eyes. But besides all that, SaGa Frontier is still a very zany, fun, well-made JRPG that was really ahead of its time. I mean, you probably noticed it as I was describing this game, but this game helped cause Octopath Traveler, which has left people excited and praising its ideas and concept, which both makes me happy and a bit sad. Happy because we'll probably get more games like SaGa Frontier if Octopath sells well, but a bit upset because, well, this game sold nothing outside of Japan. And that really sucks, you know? The last game we had gotten for the longest time in the US was a remake of Romancing Saga, a sub-series back on the Super Famicom, and that was back in 2005. We had only recently got a remaster of Romancing Saga 2 in December of 2017, but that's still a 12-year gap between games, and both games were just updated versions of previous games in this franchise. There is Saga Scarlet Grace, which for the longest time was a Japan-only Vita game released in 2016. That game is getting a Switch port that's been announced in Japan so far, so even though that game exists, we don't know if we in the US are even going to get that game, nor if we know if Square thinks it's worth it to even release those types of games here anymore. So, if there's anything you could take away from this video, it's that if you're interested in Octopath Traveler and got some free time before July rolls around, try giving SaGa Frontier a chance. It might be flawed, but hey, no game's perfect. It's a cult classic that, in my opinion, is really worth your time. However, considering that this game didn't sell well, you're not going to see it on the PlayStation Store, so unless you got a PS1 or 2 hanging around and, got a couple bucks that you're willing to spend on Amazon, things are gonna get a little shady. Yeah, you're gonna have to pirate it. But that is all I have to say about SaGa Frontier. If you feel like it, let me know if you have any thoughts or memories with SaGa Frontier, or even with the SaGa franchise in general, in the comments below. I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching.